but it brings to mind, you know, I look at the crowd here and I look at so many friends that I have, so many strong advocates, people I don't know so well yet, and I want to say that I'd really like to see this crowd of people on this side of the fence someday. Like, as an activist and an advocate, I've always had to sit on this side and let other people tell me what, and I'd really like this crowd to be on this side someday, so think about it. I know there's a lot of you who are like in for theirs too, all right? So I've been asked to link the foreclosure crisis that Worcester is going through right now, and in fact the whole country is going through, with the lack of rights and respect that so often our immigrant communities face in the United States, and even in Worcester. And these are both systems that have been tearing at the fabric of our communities. And I think, first of all, it's important to understand that the foreclosure crisis, which we see in Worcester, it's the boarded up buildings, it's the ruined credit, it's the people homeless who don't need to be, that this foreclosure crisis was not created by our neighbors, by us as residents on the ground. It was created by predatory lenders who knew that the loans they wrote were unfair, who told people that they would be able to refinance when they couldn't, who took advantage of people, in a lot of cases, who didn't speak English very well and who did not know the legal system of our country, okay? And in many cases, it's important to understand that these subprime lenders would specifically target immigrant communities, okay, who they viewed as vulnerable. And for this reason, the foreclosure crisis has been particularly devastating to many in the immigrant communities. The only silver lining that I can really see of the foreclosure crisis is that now, with lower costs, we have an opportunity to buy back our neighborhoods. We have an opportunity for local residents in our neighborhoods to actually own their own homes at a lower price. We have an opportunity to rebuild our neighborhoods. And many of those who seek to fulfill this basic part of the American dream are people from the immigrant communities. And for me, I guess, a part of having a welcoming and caring city is encouraging first-time home buyership in immigrant communities. That's a really important part. And I want to point out that there's a couple of serious barriers to this that we need to deal with. One is questionable buying practices. I've been given to understand that one thing that happens is that if a first-time home buyer comes up with the money to put a down payment on a home, they're pushed out of the market by wealthy investors who can come up with cash up front, okay? And so the listing agent will go with the investor, even if the first-time home buyer can get the money. And that's discriminatory, and it's unfair, and it may be illegal, but it's happening. And it's a serious barrier for our communities. And that kind of systemic violence is bad enough, but in some cases, the intersection of the foreclosure crisis and the lack of rights for immigrants in Worcester becomes violently direct. And I want to talk about a friend I have, and my friend is from Latin America, and she doesn't always speak English so well, but what happened is that she got a loan and she was able to try to buy her own home. You know, in the inner city, she has a 3-decker, right? And she had her husband and she had her kids, and it seemed possible to attain this, okay? And what happened was that one night at about 2 in the morning, immigration officials did a raid, and they broke her window, and they took her husband literally outside in his nightshirt, and they took him away to a jail in Texas where he was unable to get medication for his heart condition, and then they deported him. Okay, so she has no husband, no second income, no help with her kids, and guess what? She's got increasing mortgage payments because some people didn't quite tell her how it worked, okay, when she got a subprime loan. If she gets evicted, she tells me she doesn't know where she's going to go. You know, she doesn't have that many people. And there are things that our city could be doing to help immigrants and to help other people in this situation. Things like getting more bilingual staff at the home ownership center and giving them more hours. Things like having actual outreach workers to let us know what our rights are. And I'm sorry, it's not good enough for folks to just speak Spanish. There's no outreach workers right now, okay? There's few workers at the home ownership center who speak Spanish, but it's not just Spanish, right? It's Portuguese, it's Tree, it's Albanian, it's a million other languages, all right? The Worcester City government started a Buy Worcester Now initiative to try and get buildings occupied instead of abandoned. Well, that's great, but who's buying Worcester now? okay? Because I don't want my neighborhood bought up by wealthy investors. I want it bought up by the people and the renters and the first-time homebuyers who live in my neighborhood, who live in my community, who in many cases are from immigrant communities trying to attain the American dream, people who care about my neighborhood. So we ought to call up Buy Worcester now, and we ought to tell them to buy back our neighborhoods now. And if you got a pen, the phone number is 508-799-1902. And if you want that number again, you can come talk to me. And lastly, I'm going to say that we have to hit the streets. We have to do grassroots organizing. We need your help. The people who are doing outreach, they do not get paid, okay? The city does not finance this or pay them. They're people on their own acting. So we have meetings every first and third Wednesday at the Pleasant Street Neighborhood Network Center. Can we please just give it up for those folks? Because they rule over. Yeah, so that's at 301 Pleasant Street next to the Royal Restaurant. 5:30 p.m., first and third Wednesdays. We need you. Let's get back our freaking neighborhood.